providing these services under protest. What this means legally is that A, they're claiming there is a contract, you're questioning the validity or existence of it, and if within 3 days they cannot provide evidence of this contract, you get to create it yourself. Operating under a protest means you get to activate your fee schedule, and my fee schedule is $200 per hour just to talk to a cop. If they want to throw me in jail or put me through, bring charges against me, then they have to pay me $2,000 an hour. Now, I've been at this for about 7-8 years now. I've been incarcerated more than a few times, as you can imagine. I get through it normally pretty easily. One time I was almost charged. They wanted to charge me with possession. And this is what they do. They have to, before they arrest you, put you in, they have to read you your rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Is that correct? Yeah. So they will ask you, they'll say, according to the Charter, under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, so that's where they're putting you, under this Constitution, and that Constitution is only for persons who have SIN numbers and who are government employees. They'll say, you are charged with this, do you understand? The term understand does not mean, do you know what I'm saying? It means, will you stand right here? Do you stand under? Do you grasp? Do you comprehend? Do you seize? Are you going to play tug of war with me concerning these charges? When they read me that, I said, no. No, I don't understand. Well, what don't you understand? Maybe I'll explain it to you. What makes you think I don't know what you're saying, and are you saying I don't have a choice? Totally mystified this female cop. She didn't know what to do. And she said, well, fine then. I've read you your rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and at this point, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand? At that point, with the second question, even a no, any response whatsoever, is an acceptance to go to court. So the first time they ask, you say no. Second time, I just sat there and didn't say anything.
And the thing you say will be against you.
Well, they said that anything you say will be used against you in court. Anything you say. It's an offer. Say something and we go to court is essentially what they were saying. And it doesn't matter if it's yes or no. Just shut your mouth at that point. And I never ended up facing charges. They ended up being dismissed. Now, there are some people out there, teachers of this information, who will talk about commerce. And they will try to claim that everything is commerce, and if you're engaging in commerce, therefore, they have power and control over you. What they have done is they've created a framework, and if you operate within their framework and engage in commerce, you can enjoy limited liability within their framework. Let's say I'm having a party, and I say, come to my party and you can dance. Does this mean that you can't dance unless you come to my party? If you're in your yard dancing, I can come and stop you from dancing because you're not at my party? Of course not. Now, commerce is, the reason it is taxable, and commerce can be taxable, is because there must be the potential for harm. Now, what is commerce? Who here knows what commerce is defined as legally?
War.
No. No.
Buy and sell.
Yes, to buy and sell. It is not just to buy. It is not just to sell. It is not buy or sell, and that's what a lot of people want you to believe, because you go to the store, you bought something, they sold something, therefore the two of you engaged in commerce. That's bull. Neither of you engaged in commerce. If you plant a seed, say, if you plant some wheat, and you grow wheat, and you then collect that wheat, you take it to market, and you sell it. Have you engaged in commerce?
No.
No. You grew and sell. You did not buy and sell. If you then buy that wheat, and you use that wheat and you mill it, so that now you have flour, and you sell the flour. You bought the wheat, sell the flour. Have you engaged in commerce?
Yes.
No. Commerce is two steps, buy and sell, not buy and do something else and then sell. You are adding value to it, and that added value means you are not engaging in pure commerce. The same as if someone takes the flour, turns it into bread, and sells the bread. Again, value has been added, and therefore it is not commerce. What about, though, if you live in a small village? You have someone growing wheat, someone milling flour, someone baking bread, everyone's happy. But some guy comes and he's got a lot of money. He buys up all the wheat, and all he does is buy it, and he doesn't do anything else. He doesn't mill it. He doesn't bake bread. Finally, everyone's starving. The guy says, fine, I'll sell my wheat now at a huge markup. All he has done is bought and sold and made a profit. That's commerce. That is why they can tax it, because it has the immense potential for harm. The guy with all the money will end up owning you. That's why it's taxable. That's why as a community you could say, okay, you want to do that, that's fine, but we get a portion of that. If you start looking at these words and look at them very carefully and do not operate excuse me, on assumptions. The assumption, for them to believe that, what they do is they take the word and they want you to believe it means or. And or are not the same thing. I learned that at a very young age in a brothel. Just teasing. Now there are three basic things. What we want to do is we want to achieve a higher level of authority and power over ourselves, over our reality. Is this not correct? We want greater control. We want greater freedom. How do we do it? Look to the teachings of Frank, what's his name? The guy who wrote The Wizard of Oz. How did she end up getting home? 3 simple little clicks of her heels, bang, she was home. This is what we have to do. For the first click of your heel, you have to use your heart. Your brain, if that's all you use, is going to get you in a lot of trouble. If, however, you bring your heart and then apply your brain as well, you will start seeing things that you otherwise would miss. Use your heart before you use your head. That's click number 1. Click number 2 is probably the most difficult one for everyone to accept. What you have to do, you've been deceived, have you not? Did anyone tell you about the security of the person? Tell you you were worth $10 million, you had a right to it? Did anyone tell you that you weren't a person, that you were an individual? No one told you any of these things. So you have been deceived. Are we in agreement there?
Yes.
You have to accept fully and completely responsibility for allowing yourself to have been deceived. You might want to blame it on the other people. Keep doing that. You're never going to find your power. If you want complete power over your future, you need to have that power in the present, and that means accepting responsibility for the past. You went and you applied, you signed an application without ever looking up what the meaning and the implications of that word was. Whose fault is that? There's a maxim in law that states, let he who would be deceived. If you do not want to engage in your own due diligence, it's on you, not on them. Your ignorance, your deception rests on 3 things. Every deception rests and requires these 3 things. One of them is ignorance, laziness, and greed. Those are the 3 things that every deceiver relies on. You were greedy for your driver's license, and therefore you did not even look to whether or not you needed your license. You were greedy for benefits, so you went and you got those. You were too lazy to do the due diligence and read the words, and you were, well, it was all on you essentially. If you want power over your future, stop putting it on other people and accept fully and completely responsibility for your own present reality, for what happened to you in the past, and that's a tough part, I know, and the power that you want in the future will come to you. You will never have power in the future if you cannot accept that you had power in the past and you didn't use it properly. It doesn't just come at some magic time. You've always had it, you just haven't been using it. The final one, the third step, is to accept that we have duties as human beings. You have a duty of compassion to your fellow man above all else, as far as I'm concerned. If you are engaging, if you're following that, then you are going to have more control over your reality because, and I'll just share a little story with you. A guy went into court. He was charged with driving without a license. He claimed he was traveling, exercising his common law rights. He was going to go into court. We're going to lower that a bit. He was going to go into court and argue that he had a right to do what he was doing. I told him, no, don't argue that you have a right. Infants have rights. An infant has a right to a teat. Too low. There we go. Adolescents, they have freedoms, and they want you to argue about your rights and your freedoms all the time. All you end up doing, sounding like, is either an infant or a teenager.